Hello and welcome to chapter 3 of Storytime with Christina, me. So welcome back if you've watched the first two chapters. Today's chapter is about me. It's about my wrist and the journey and conversation that I have with it. It's an ongoing thing. We've been building a relationship. It tends to get stronger every time we have the conversation. So what happens, or I guess to give a little history of my wrist, in college, I did a lot of food running and serving, so a lot of this motion. And what happened is I would get a ganglion, which is like a bundle of nerve cells, which is, if you can see here, I don't know if you can see it, but there's like a line across my wrist. That's recent, that's about 6 months old. This one would go right here, and there's a big bump, and it would move in and out of my carpal bones, but at particular times. So this, I don't consider it considered an injury. I consider it, again, a conversation and something that I've built a relationship with. It's my receiving hand. Most of my injuries are actually on my left side, which again is a whole other chapter of my story. Today we just focus on my wrist. Believe me, there's plenty more. So again, this conversation. And so what will happen is if I'm not paying attention to some aspect of my nourishment, of my health that needs to be paid attention to, my body would be like, oh, I'm sorry, you want to handstand today? No, sir, no ma'am. You don't get to, and you'd figure out why. You better explore. So instead of a workout, I create this space for exploration. And I use, I have a coach that programs my strength. I have a coach that has helped me explore my mobility. And through these workouts or these training programs, in between them, I'm figuring out so much. And again, the wrist really starts to talk. And so as I'm working through these programs, parts of my body and parts of previous injuries are coming up. And when I can't handstand, it's really a sign that, hey, Christina, you're not paying attention to one of these areas of the body. So when that happens, yes, of course, there is this isolated wrist awareness, right? So I'm doing my wrist routine if I haven't been doing that, or spending more time opening up my wrists each day, but also looking to the rest of my body. And what will happen is I'll find these areas that are tight, I'll listen, I'll move quietly to kind of figure out where my mind and where my body wants to pay attention. Maybe it's an emotion that I need to release. So sometimes I'll get an emotional release, and the next day I'll be able to handstand. And I don't really do wrist stuff. Sometimes it really depends. But it's again, this just beautiful conversation. And it's one of those things where, sometimes there's 3 or 4 months where I don't handstand and my wrist hurts, but I'm exploring so many other things. And you know what? Sorry, Instagram. Can't post handstand pics or videos or whatever, I don't think that's what any of it's about, but that's again, a whole other video. So again, my wrist, this one happened about 6 months ago. And it's weird because it happens right where the crease of my wrist is. So it's kind of formed this line, which is really interesting. It's kind of shaped itself to enable me to move. And that's been an interesting aspect of this conversation. And as it subsides, it's almost like this smoothing out of this aspect of myself, this part of this appendage that allows me to receive, and just clearing out my filter, I guess, in other terms. So I want you to think about maybe this certain pain that keeps coming back, or this injury that keeps coming back, and then you keep looking outside of yourself for somebody else to fix it and give you these specific exercises and do this workout 3 times a week, 5 reps for 30 seconds, and you're just like mindlessly doing it. I actually just corrected some guy. I guided some a friend at the gym today with his permission. And today afterwards, through a message, I was like, hey, how did it feel? And he's like, I felt like I actually accomplished a goal rather than just going through the motions. So when you have this reoccurring injury, to get it to a point where, okay, you can finally use it, are you still at that tipping point, or have you actually explored and built a relationship with whatever area is injured? And it is a conversation with yourself, and only you can fully heal it to a point with confidence, because at an injury level too, it's also this cognitive fear that starts to accumulate towards certain actions. So, I mean, there's so many layers to an injury, and again, that's another video, another course, another thing, another day. But thank you for joining me today for this chapter on my wrist. And again, think about those injuries and how you can explore further into creating more awareness to the deeper aspects of yourself. Goodbye for today. Books is closed. Chapter over. And thank you for joining me today, and I'll see you next time.